The enlisted force distribution panel doesn't sound like this really sexy topic to discuss right on its face, but I think it's a really important one to have because I didn't even know how it worked until I got to Minot. I'm over 10 years in. That's when I finally figured it all out. So if you listen to this conversation, I think you'll get a lot out of it. And if you're not having that conversation with your airman after you listen to this, then you're wrong. So this is the Why Not podcast. You clicked on the video. You know we're talking about the enlisted force distribution panel, and you might think, "Oh, that sounds boring." I urge you to stick around this entire episode because I think there's going to be some really important stuff in here. Let's introduce our cast here. So we'll start right here with our airmen. Who are you? Where are you from?
My name is Senior Airman Bankston. I'm here with Public Affairs.
Right on. Thank you for being here.
Hey, I am Tech Sergeant Blake Rady, and I'm from 5th Security Forces Squadron.
I am Senior Dunn. I sit in as the Senior Enlisted Leader for 5 CES here at Minot Air Force Base.
Well, thank you all for being here. And this is not something that I thought about as an airman. Like I was not thinking about, oh, how am I going to get promoted? I was basically just taking every day as it came. So what is the enlisted force distribution panel? Can anybody define that for me?
So, in my limited view of it, I think it is where a group of leaders that represent a section get together, and they do a fast, well, not a fast, but they do an overview of the team's records, full records, right? So I'm sure we'll get in deeper, but you're looking at like EPBs, SURFs, maybe PT, decks, things like that, and they'll score them and kind of rack and stack and walk away saying members X, Y, and Z, meet the mark for deserving a promotion push or a statement nowadays. It's my take on it.
Gotcha. Anything to add? Anybody else?
Yes, he is very spot on. So with the enlisted force distribution panel, it depends on where it's at, right? So for example, if it's in-house, what your CSS would get is a mail, and that's the master eligibility list, right? And that pretty much shows you like how many of your personnel is up for a promotion. And then if you look in the AFI, I can't remember the number, but it's the promotion AFI. It's a table that basically tells you that if you have this many, like members who are up for promotion, that would dictate how many promote nows you get and how many must promotes. So for example, right now in CE, we have like 27 that are up. So my job as the senior enlisted leader, I have to look up that AFI and find out like, okay, well, not find out, but see, okay, with 27 that's up, my unit is allowed 1 promote now and 3 must promotes, right? And then of course with staff senior airmen, as the numbers get bigger, then the more promotion statements you get, right? That's if it's internal. Now on the outside of it, say with the master sergeants, right? I'm just throwing out a number. Say we have like a 100 master sergeants just within MSG, the mission support group, right? So now the group chiefs, they have their own thing too as well. They look at and say, okay, well, depending on the number of eligible master sergeants, that would dictate the number of strats. Yeah. And not only the number of strats, that will also dictate the number of like the top 25%, right? And then they would send the email out to all the SCLs and say, hey, we have this many, the wing has this many promotion statements as far as like strats and this many, top 25, right? So last year, for transparency, right?
Right.
Last year, they had 100 and something, but based on the 10%, it was like 30 people can get a promotion statement or top 25%. So, but you got to think with all groups, you got to think of OG, you got to think of MXG, you got to think of MSG, you got to think of medical group, right? So out of the 30 that got pushed, 1 through like 18 got the numbered strat, and then 18 to basically 30 got the top 25, right? You know, so when you're talking in that sense, he is very spot on to where we have to get all the records of everybody whose squadron that they're pushing up, and then I have to rack and stack it. So I have to be knowledgeable enough to know what is COM doing, what is LRS doing, what is security forces doing, what is FSS doing, and also I have to be honest about what is my team doing as well. Because if I got, say, like 7 master sergeants, you know, who is up for promotion, that doesn't mean I push all 7, right? So I got to be fair and honest and say, okay, when I look at their records, I have to say, okay, who records fits the mold to where that can get up to the group and get up to the wing, you know, and then that's what we have that discussion of reviewing records, and then we start to score them.
Well, I mean, a lot of information there, but what I'm parsing out is that there's a lot of people competing.
Yes.
We're all, I mean, we're all one team, one fight. But if you want to get promoted, it is a competition.
Mhm.
Like we're putting our best forward.
Yep.
Now you mentioned promote nows, must promotes.
Mhm.
There's a limited amount of those slots. What impact does a must promote or a promote now have for somebody's evaluations? And for those of you who are less familiar, like our civilian folks, we have evaluations that we do every year. They happen at different times for different ranks, but we all have to do them. And we're gonna put on a sheet of paper everything that we've accomplished in like 4 different areas of what it means to be an airman, and then we get evaluated on it. So, what does the must promote do, and what does the promote now do for that person?
So it gives them that extra like push as far as like points, you know, when they go and test, you know, for like staff or tech or whatnot. It varies from year to year because just because you got a statement last year, it doesn't mean you'll get the same amount of points the following year after, right? But one of the things that I would say the common theme is sustained superior performance. That's the theme right there. A lot of times what I've seen is people, they have a hot year and they think that one hot year is supposed to get you promoted. It doesn't work like that, right? Because you can have somebody who has one hot year, but at the same time, if you have somebody who's been consistent of having multiple hot years, that can be the difference between the promote now and must promote, right?
Right.
What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I full-heartedly agree. Not to get into limb facts or anything, but I think that's why as supervisors or SELs or anywhere in the chain where we're rating on someone, it drives home the point of marking people accurately. Because it's really hard if I mark everyone in a room as outstanding when they're really not,
Yeah.
right? Because then everybody has all these hot years, and it just kind of convolutes the topics of discussion a little more. So, Senior's spot on with everything he said, but there's something to be said about marking accurately, which is
Yes.
something I think sometimes guys like I really struggle with sometimes.
My airman is actually right here. This is my airman.
Nice.
So, wrote your first EPB last year, and both I and the other NCO in this office felt very confident about what we put on that sheet of paper. And we felt very strongly that this is going to get a must promote. Like this is going to happen. We actually felt pretty strong about all of our airmen.
Yes,
We
of
thought
course.
we did a really good
Yep,
job.
agreed. Everybody works hard.
Yeah, and I talked about this whenever it happened, thanks to him, but we were really disappointed because we thought we represented you to the best of our ability, and you did great. And it can feel disappointing as a supervisor when you put your best foot forward and you thought you did everything you could for an airman, and then you see that promote and you're like, oh.
Yep.
Yeah, they only gave out like one last year, right?
Yeah.
Was it one or okay? Because I remember me and Wilson were both like on the.
You were
just,
in
like,
the discussion. You were in the discussion. They're like, hey, it was really close. And what you talked about before at the beginning of the recording when you talked about, you know, there are people who they're going in there and they're not getting the information that they need. They're not
Yes.
getting that transparency that they need to
Yes.
understand what happened, what was
Yep.
the conversation,
Agreed.
and they need the feedback so they can improve
Mhm.
the next time.
Yep. So let me ask you this. So did you get feedback on her records
get
on
feedback.
why?
Yeah, we did get feedback.
Okay, nice.
And they said these were really good. And in a different year, these might have been the ones that got elevated.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there were other airmen in the group who did better.
Yep.
And that's great. Like, we're so happy for those airmen. We're happy for other airmen to succeed. It's just, it hurts when
Yeah.
you find out that it felt like so close, but it's not you, because there's only so many that we can give out.
Yep.
And I promoted on a promote. I made it to staff sergeant as a promote, and
Mhm.
I've fought a lot of years to keep promoting. And it's like, if you're counting on must promotes and promote nows to get you the next rank, that I don't think that's the right attitude.
Nope. Yep. Agreed.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Yep. So I came up, right? So I've been here for 23 years. So, and I'm sure you probably like remember this. Remember when everybody got the firewall 5?
Yes.
Regardless of what you did.
Yes.
Like if I came to work and just did the bare minimum, came in, did my job and go home, I got a firewall 5. While the tech sergeant right here, he could have came in, did his job, doing wing group involvement, like he is it.
Yeah,
He's the superstar.
leading programs
Yes.
within your section,
Your section.
clearing things up, fixing
Yep.
discrepancies.
Yep.
But these are equal people.
Yep. We would get the same rating, right?
Right.
So I think so now move to the EFDP. Like you said, we went away from the ratings. Now on the form, it's just literally just your narrative, and I think that's when everybody took a look at their records and realized that they wasn't as great as they thought they were, right?
Mhm.
And that's when it came down to, well, if I don't get a statement, I'm not getting promoted. That's not true. You are 100% in control of how you study. That's what I tell my staffs. That's what I tell my senior airmen, right? You know what time frame you are testing in, and
Right.
so from that time frame, when you know you assigned for your test date, you should already be studying,
Mhm.
right? When I was a senior airman, testing for staff, I studied for 8 months. I didn't go out.
Right.
Like I was from Monday to Thursday, I would literally just read the book. And then Friday and Saturday and Sunday, I would just, do the test. Because back then we had master your CDCs, and a PDG gold.
Right.
And so I would just constantly, and I did that for 8 months nonstop. And then so when I tested, I knew for a fact when I walked out the room, I knew what range I scored in, right? But even then to today, I would tell my NCO, just study. Just because you don't get a promotion statement, it doesn't mean that you did something wrong or anything like that, right? Like you said, you don't know what others have in their records, right? Because your peers are also working hard too as well. So just because you don't get that statement, you're still in control of how much you study, right? And but yeah, you got to study regardless if you get the statement or not. When I was at Holloman, we had somebody who got a promote now, and when he found out he didn't make it, he was extremely upset.
Wow.
And he came to my office, again, venting, right? You can always vent to me. You can scream, kick, whatever. And so I was like, okay, well, when your scores, get released, why don't you print them out for me? And then, we can sit down and talk then.
Sure.
So scores came out. He walked in my office with his head down and literally bombed the test. Got high 40s, low 50s.
Okay.
And I was like,
that doesn't meet the cutoff.
yes, there you go. It didn't meet the cutoff.
Mm.
But this is somebody who had to promote now.
Right.
So it goes back to what you were saying. Just because you got that promote now, it doesn't mean you get automatically promoted. You still need to study regardless of what statement that you get, And then once he saw his scores, he had nobody to blame but himself, because you are in full control of how you study. You are in full control of when you read the questions and the answers and circle which one. That's all you. So once you get that promote now, must promote whatever it is, you have to do your job and study.
I I'm very glad of like what we have today. What the access we have to technology has made it really easy to study. There's an app for everything. I've even used the different AI
Yep.
tools that exist. Uh, like I could name drop one, but you know I'm not trying to mess up our algorithms. So, but there are tools where you can upload a document into the AI and you say, I want you to turn this into flashcards for me.
Mm-hmm.
If there doesn't exist flashcards for your career field, where you're like, you know, I don't have anything to study other than the AFI, you can drop your AFI in there, turn it into flashcards, and now you can study those. So that is something that I can say for you, but I can also say for me, because it is a helpful tool that exists right now that you can use to make it easier for yourself. And of course, if you were trying to do the regular PFE where you need to know general Air Force knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
there's already a bunch of tools out there for that. Use them. So
Yeah,
um,
last year I tried to do the flashcards on like Quizlet for PA AFI, and it was not helpful at all.
no,
Did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, the PGG promote one was really helpful,
Yep.
but the
yeah,
AFI one,
that's where I really excelled. Was
Mm-hmm.
uh, all like there's so much Air Force knowledge, quizzes that you can do, apps that people have been working on for years to make sure that they're really helpful to people. And that's the test I always know that I'm gonna only get better every year. Um, but if you're feeling rough on your specific job knowledge and you feel like there's not enough material out there other than like reading AFI, then create something for yourself and don't hoard it, share it,
Yes.
because when we all succeed together,
Yep.
we're better for it.
Agreed.
do they keep the SKT when you're promoting past staff sergeant?
Past staff sergeant, so if different levels,
Mm-hmm.
so I take the SKT for a staff sergeant, you know,
Mhm.
to move to tech. After that, you're at a board,
Yes.
and that is same conversation of like
Mm-hmm.
getting a must promote and promote now, but they're looking at you differently because, I mean, you can speak to that better than I can,
Yes.
but it's now treated as they're looking at your bullets, and there's less of people trying to make master sergeant or senior master sergeant in chief. So it's easier to go through those and say, okay, we have some time to like look at these bullets. There's still a lot of people, but there's more time to really break it down.
Yep.
Does anyone know the four, like off the top of their head, the four eval areas that we put for our EPBs, like the four things that we're going to have to write about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Leadership is to say one. We just talked about this, so you should know another one of them.
Responsibilities, like your work responsibilities.
Yeah,
Is that in there?
all of them are going to be your work responsibilities, but leadership.
I was thinking
How are
like
you
extra duties.
right? How are you exemplifying leadership? How are you exemplifying resource management?
Mm-hmm.
How are you innovating within your unit?
Yep.
And fourth one evades me right now, which
So I think it's just executing the mission.
Yep.
executing the
Yep.
mission.
Yep.
Exactly.
Very first.
Yep.
Yeah. How are you doing your job? So
Mhm.
you're right, and just like how are you doing your job?
Mm-hmm.
Those four things, which is I feel like is it makes more sense to me
Yes.
because I came in with EPRs
Man. Good
and
old bullets.
the bullets where I would look at a bullet and be like, I know I wrote this and I have no idea what I'm reading
Yep.
because we would shorten words
Mm-hmm.
to a disgusting amount. Like
Yep.
they didn't make any sense.
So many abbreviations. The 2009 trick that gave you the half space, so that way you can squeeze in words. Oh, yeah, trust me, I've done it.
Yeah.
Yes, I would not lie to y'all. I've done it. Be like, do it again. It fits. All right, next one.
Yeah. I mean, and people would be like, oh, you know, it needs to fit in there perfectly. It needs to be flushed all the way to the end,
Yep.
or else it's not a good bullet.
Yep.
And
Agreed. The good old
But it
days.
never was like that though. My first DPR was in 2009, and man, those bullets, they were. I had like 2 inches of space left, you know, and it was fine. Still got a firewall.
Yep.
It's like, man, Rady just kind of showed up and drove a truck around and you know,
Mhm.
responded to some alarms. All right, sweet. You know, so I think it came a little later where they got a lot more meticulous with how far you have to stretch the bullets out.
right.
Really harping on the abbreviations
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yes, sir.
Something that we haven't necessarily talked about, but I think is important. Who is this panel? Like, who are these people who are sitting down and talking about airmen's EPBs and
Okay.
deciding?
Okay. So it goes back to what I mentioned first, right? So is this internal or is this outside the squadron, right?
Yeah.
So if it's internal, chances are it's your SEL,
Mhm.
the commander, your superintendents, and maybe depending on your manning, maybe a couple, of master sergeants, right? Depending on your squadron. So that's if it's internal.
Mhm.
If it's external, meaning at the group, because I'm sitting in, so even though I'm not a chief, but I'm sitting in as the senior enlisted leader, I've been afforded the opportunity to be in the room with the chiefs, and that's where it goes into the group discussion of now am I not only looking at my members' records,
Mhm.
I got to look at security forces records. I have to look at comm records. I have to look at, FSS, security forces, LRS, and depending on how many each squadron get pushed, then that would dictate as far as like how many we might get pushed up to the wing to represent MSG, right? And the same thing happens with MXG and so forth. But depending on if it's internal, more than likely it's your superintendents, your SCL, and your master sergeants. If it's external, then it'll probably be your chief or whoever's sitting in, as the senior leader.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it's really important to know like who's going to be looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
because when you're writing, and this is something our command chief, Chief Sharp, had mentioned, he said there are things that I find valuable
Yes.
that you're not going to write about. And he said that's my, we all have bias.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there are things that I'm going to see and I'm going to say like that's important, and things that you're going to write that other person finds valuable but I'm not going to know about.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean there's human, you could say it's human error, but
Yeah.
we're all people writing these things, we're all people reading these things.
Mm-hmm. And so so I would say this too, right? The good thing about it is that whether it's internal or external, guess what we get to do? We get to have that conversation, right?
Mm.
So say if I'm looking at her records, right, and I see something that I might not understand, right, or might not get. Well, if her master sergeant or superintendent is in the room,
Mm.
right, during that discussion, right, if I scored her record a certain way because I read it a certain way, I don't have the full understanding of what she does. I can ask her superintendent, hey, for this narrative in Leading People,
Mm.
I read it like this. Can you explain more about, what she really did?
Right.
Right. And then her superintendent would say, oh, yes, that one, she did a lot. We had to shorten it up, of course, because we only get, 350 spaces. Characters, and that's it.
Yeah.
But on this particular job, she did this, and based on the information, right, um now that I have a better understanding of it, guess what, right, if I think, it's a deserving of, like, just saying more points or a bump up, then I can, like, bump it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things is I don't want to hold her back just because I don't understand something, right? Like,
Right.
that's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, as a senior leader, I have to be careful not being biased, right? I have to give everybody that fair shot.
Right.
So once I get that information about her records or what this statement meant, well, guess what? If it makes sense and what she did was, a phenomenal, then guess what? I will bump her up from, I'm just saying, a 7.5 to an 8, because now I have a better understanding what that narrative meant.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's important to know too,
Yes.
because we don't know each other's jobs, and and when people read, like I write for PA,
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing in a particular way where it would make sense to another PA airman with what it is that I've written down, but then other career fields are going to look at it and be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep.
So when it comes to the panel, we have to make sure that other people can understand it.
Yes.
It's very unique to have an airman talking about like getting an airman promoted with your airman in the room. Yeah, it's kind of a
Yes.
odd feeling. Yeah, we obviously, as leaders, we want to make sure that happens for our airmen. So um, I hope that other leaders who are listening to this can think about that. if you guys feel good about it, I think we've talked about everything that we could possibly talk about the subject before we start going like in really different directions. But is there anything that anybody else wants to say about the enlisted force distribution panel before we start to close things up?
From my experience from the rooms I've been in, to represent my airman CE or to represent, MSG as a whole, I would say number one, make sure your records are up to date, right? There's been times I've reviewed records and stuff are missing, and you have to understand that when you go up for the board, nobody's going to call you, and be like, hey, we noticed that you have a declaration missing from, a Kadena. Nobody's going to call you, right? And so half the time, 50% of the time people don't get promoted is because their records are jacked up, right? So make sure when you PCS or, whenever when you do something, a phenomenal, whether you get a decoration, whether you complete your master's or your bachelor's or your CCAF, whether you went to, on an ALS, NCOA, like make sure that's on your records, right? Because if you don't care about your records, then why should I, right? Number one. Number two, like I talked about before, sustained superior performance. A lot of times people take their foot off the gas, which is fine because you're human. You can't go 100% every single day, right? But I would say that be strategic about it, right? About like when you want to take your foot off the gas, right? So let me share something with y'all, right? I had a chief who told me, he said he kind of predicted what quarters he would put himself in for, back when he was coming up.
Right.
And it made sense. We're in the fourth quarter, which consists of, October, November, December, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. What is everybody doing, like doing the fourth quarter?
We're all trying to get to the holidays.
Get to the holidays. Yep. So, right. So the fourth quarter, what he would call it is the sleeping months, right? Because everybody's tired, right? We've been working hard, so nobody doesn't want to do much because we're thinking about going home to see our families, right? You got Thanksgiving, you got Christmas, you got New Year's, right? So he would take opportunities to do things during the fourth quarter because he knew everybody is, they're taking their foot off the gas.
Right.
All right. So now the first quarter comes up, right? And what's the first quarter?
First quarter,
January, February, March, right?
Everybody's excited to start the year and make themselves new.
Okay, well, are they really excited? Because again, we always hear the new year, new me. All right. However, are they really excited or are they tired from the holidays, right? So when you come back to work after New Year's, right, are you really re-energized or is it more like, all right, let me wake up, let me, right, get back into the grind mode. So guess what? He would capitalize off the first quarter too, because everybody would sleep during the fourth quarter. Now they're waking up during the first quarter. So he would capitalize off that too, because when people get back to work, they're just kind of like, okay, I'm back to work, but I really don't want to do anything yet.
Yeah.
He told me the second quarter and third quarter were the hardest to win because by the second quarter, everybody's awake, right? The third quarter, the EPBs are starting to come up. So now everybody is really going, okay, I done wasted all my time doing XYZ. Now I need to have some of my EPB. Right. And then when you think about it, so he knew for him, what worked out for him was he would always do stuff in the fourth and first quarter. And then during the second and third quarter, he could take his foot off the gas because he knew everybody else would just start, right, to submit for awards and everything too. So that's number two, right? Number three, depending on where you at, right, get involved, right? Get involved in the wing stuff. There's always going to be the annual awards. There's always going to be the quarterly awards. There's always going to be the Air Force Ball. There's always going to be the induction, the CCAF, graduation, right? So that right there is like 5 wing events, right? That you can kind of like get yourself involved in. You don't have to do every single one of them, right? But just get involved with what works for you, that like balance, because I know that some people have married kids and some people are just, single, right? Who have that free time. And then I would say number 4 is when it comes to awards, everybody always go for, the usual awards,
Right.
The Airman of the Quarter, NCO of the Quarter, Senior NCO of the Quarter, things like that, right? But remember, there's also the TMT Task Awards that come out, the Saigon, the Geico, the Vaughn O Award, the Joan A. Wilson, the John Wayne Award, whatever the case may be, right? But also keep mindful that within your AFSC, you might have your own awards that you can go for, right? And so therefore, like, just be mindful of, okay, what awards can I just kind of like strive for, and then read the qualifications of what it entails. And then once you read what it entails, that's how you set yourself up for stuff around base, within your unit, within the group, whatever the case may be. So when that award comes out, you meet the criteria for it. When I was at Holloman Air Force Base, our MSG commander, he's retired now, and he told me, and he was upset, right? Because MSG, we really didn't do a good job on winning awards, right? And so he was upset because half the people who won awards, they only won because they was the only one who submitted.
Exactly.
And so some awards automatically start at the wing level. Some awards automatically start at the NAF level or the group level, right? And so not saying that they wasn't, deserving for it, but just know that there's times to where these taskers come out, and the only reason why somebody won is because they was the only nomination.
Yeah. If you don't believe that you're going to win, and so you don't apply, you'll never know.
Yep. And then last thing, I would say this, right? So make sure you get feedback, right? Make sure we, as your, senior master sergeants, whoever is representing you in that room, at the table, wherever the case may be, right? Do not be afraid to ask your leaders for feedback, right? Because that's our job. We 100% owe you that, right? And the reason why is because, like you stated earlier, I don't know, like, his chief might think something, may his chief may have their own perspective. Your senior leader might have their own perspective, and so forth, right? So therefore, regardless of where you landed at, whether you got the strat, whether you got to promote now, must promote, or even just promote, it's my job to make sure I'm taking detailed notes about what they're saying about all of your records. And that way, when I walk out that room, I might, find you, but like, hey, right, let's talk.
Right.
Hey, we had a conversation today. You were number 1, and here's the reason why. Or we had a conversation today. I'm sorry, you didn't get, to the line. However, I got feedback on what they saw, and here's what we're going to do next year. So that way, when I bring you to the table again, we're good to go.
Excellent points. Thank you for sharing that. And we really do think this is this is an important conversation for me and for my airmen. Thank you for coming in here today. We really appreciate the time that you took to talk about this. I think it's important for everybody. If you are rating on airmen, you need to be seeking guidance so that you can be the best rater that you can be, and get your airmen moving up through the ranks. No matter where you're at in your career, it's always about making sure that you keep the door open for the people behind you. So again, thank you for taking the time today.
Yeah, thank you. Can I throw something out there?
Please do.
Yeah, so just for people that maybe not getting the push, right, and kind of feeling down, and wanting to take that knee, just keep a, don't quit today, quit tomorrow mindset. And then I think that sometimes we get caught in this trap where we think our worth starts and ends with our rank.
Yeah.
So I would push the message out, man, that no matter who you are, you're so much more than the rank on your chest or,
Agreed.
or up on your traps there. So yeah, I think it's important for people to know that.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. Yeah, don't attach too much value to the rank that you have on your chest. That's not the end all be all.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening, and we hope that you'll keep listening in the future. Appreciate you.